Hello my friends, and welcome back to the Dark Side of the Moon and another match of Beyond All Reason, where today we're taking a look at a game that was recently sent on over that apparently features a pretty interesting strategy. It certainly piqued my interests, especially after my very successful push with those heavy laser towers. I was pretty thrilled about that and wanted to explore that more. Apparently this is along the very same vein. So today, our red team leader, spawning as a Cortex commander and on the northern side of this moon asteroid barren wasteland of the moon. It's going to be Rysika, clocking in at 26 open skill here, gonna be showing us exactly what they've got. This is a lower level lobby, so definitely gonna be taking it nice and easy, relaxing our way through this game as we see how these teams smash heads against each other in almost the same position here, but spawning as an Armada commander. It's 4, not the number, but the descriptor here, 4. The blue Armada commander, going for quadruple solar panel off of double mech start. These are 3.2 mexes though, so they're definitely quite powerful. Gonna be churning out metal left, right, and center for our blue team leader to enjoy. One of the things about this map is that it's very wide open, which means that run-bys are very dangerous. It's also a map that has very focused metal spots. You can see all the different metal spots around here. They're not concentrated around one area, they're sort of randomly dispersed, I guess is how I would put it. And so run-bys, a single unit can do tons of damage if a run-by is unmitigated, undeflected by any one team. Looks like a little bit of a plan right here from the red team in order to push through the middle. Looks like the brown and maroon commander is going to be working together to try and set up a little bit of a play in the midsection of this map, and I think that makes a lot of sense. There's also a lot of reclaim to fight over on this map, plenty of buildings right here in this southern crater as well as this northern one. These buildings, each one of them going for 150 metal for the ones in the middle, and I think a little bit less. No, 150 for the ones on the outsides as well. So certainly quite a bit of metal per building, but also in total, if we activate our metal vision, there you go, you can see, yeah, quite a healthy amount of resources that you can actually get if you capture all these. So I wouldn't be surprised to see resbots moving out immediately, or at the very least, that's what I'd like to see. Not going to be the case. Sometimes these lower level lobbies, you know, we're all learning the game, we're all trying to figure it out at the same time, so maybe unaware of exactly the fact that there's so much metal out for the reclaim here in the middle of the map, but it is certainly to pay attention to. For instance, if you're on a map and you're taking a look around, make sure to make note of whether there's any reclaim. There are other rocks to reclaim here on this map as well. Not nearly as valuable, but it adds up. 20 metal here, 20 metal there, it all adds up, and eventually it's an extra unit or two on the front lines. But all that can lead to an advantage, and eventually you can find yourself in a pretty good position, I would say. King David, the yellow commander on the southern side here, building a nice little grunt army, but keeping them latched onto the laboratory here. Wouldn't mind seeing them go across the map, or at the very least try and protect this constructor moving forward. We do have 2 sent on out here. If we can check the view of the red command, or the red team here. There we go. Rysika is sending out a resbot at this point in time. Gonna send a grunt forward at first as well to make sure that this all stays protected. But little does the red commander know, this is entirely uncontested, so this resbot should have a field day eating up all of this juicy reclaim. Ideally, you want to start with the reclaim closest to your enemies and work your way backwards. This is going to be the hardest to reclaim, and it's going to get even harder as more units stream across the map. So usually, best bet is to go for the hardest reclaim first, which is going to be these buildings closer to the enemy, and then work your way back here. But the red commander just setting up some reclaim fields and starting to tear down those puny human buildings and make way for more death machines. Just Tashi now dealing with a couple of rascals being sent across the map right here. The answer, by the way, to the question that I posed on the thumbnail for the most recent live stream was, who is this unit? There's some random unit in one of the loading screens. Apparently, I got a little bit of lore that I'd love to share with you guys. Apparently, it was the very first modeling work that Patak had ever done. One of the Beyond a Reason developer teams, one of the core moderators, one of the core team members. It was apparently a unit model that they had designed a long time ago that was eventually replaced with the humble Rascal that we all know and love. But I just thought that was a neat little detail that I'd love to share with you guys. Rascals here in the backline didn't manage to get this metal extractor. They can always go back for seconds. I think that resbot there is a prime target as well. There is a thug out and available. Thug blasts 2 of them down. Can I get the 3rd? It will. Nicely done. Defense on point right here for the pink commander, manages to shuttle that down. We're gonna go for a little res command. All right, not the end of the world. That'll pick up that metal extractor there a little more importantly than these rascals, of course, but all said and done, not the end of the world for just Tashi. Losing one of those mechs is not the biggest deal. There's plenty of constructors around. We can go ahead and rebuild it. But it is one thing that I will say probably the red and maroon commander are doing best on their team right now, is just making sure to expand as quickly as possible. Grabbing those mexes as fast as you can, and then using the resbots to clean up all of them that aren't claimed. We need to res that probably. Okay, we're gonna go for the reclaim here. As long as we're reclaiming, it's not the end of the world, but it is obviously gonna spare you a little bit of resource to go for some reclaim as opposed to having to rebuild that thing from scratch. LLT here to defend the metal extractor in the center of this console. And just like that, this area is locked down nicely. Those pawns did snipe the 3.2 over here, though. That's going to mean the commander either has to be forced offline to go deal with that, or we're going to need a constructor to move forward, and it looks like it's going to be the latter. We do have a T1 vehicle constructor from Captain, the 15 open skill 1 chevron hero in hot pink. Going to be showing us what he's got. Missed a couple of metal extractors here, definitely a point of teaching. Make sure you get those mexes up and running. They're the crux of your economy. Rysika now with a tremendous amount of metal in the bank, and no real way to spend it. A lot of that metal coming back from the reclaim here. Trying to build some build power, trying to go for some advanced solar panels. I think probably spamming out the advanced solar panels is going to be the best bet here. At this point, we've got 3 of them up and running, so once that build power gets focused onto the, actually gets focused on the advanced solar panels, I think the red economy is going to be stellar. More LLTs wouldn't be the end of the world. Oh, we're actually going to go for a beamer turret here for 4. Not the end of the world either. Yeah, red commander, or pardon me, the blue commander going for some heftier static defense in the center, trying to go ahead and put down some of those medium laser towers to deal with any potential rocket bots that might be coming this way. Do we have any, though? The red commander doesn't have any rocket bots queued up at the immediate moment. For the most part, just interested in continuing to develop the economy. I think that's a perfectly fine game. Of course, the E-economy, the energy economy, can scale into more and more metal production, and on a map this tight with this many run-by patterns and this many opportunity paths, scaling that energy economy is paramount to success. The longer you rely on those metal extractor economies, the longer you are vulnerable. Vulnerable to run-bys just like this. 4, sending a huge force of pawns moving forward right now. Well, huge. Huge subjectively anyways. Moving forward right now. Decent engagement from the pawns right there, taking out a load of those grunts, but there are a few kiting backwards and medium tank reinforcements are on the way as well. And ultimately, all things considered, those pawns will fall. Nicely done. Nice defense right there. Only losing a single metal extractor for all those pawns. Definitely well worth it. Reclaiming all those wreckages and rebuilding that mechs. The Maroon Commander, Cash Miss X43, is going to be in a fabulous position here. Grunts continuing to engage against the pawns over here for the Blue Commander. Feels like a little bit lackluster. Yeah, feels like we're kind of putting a lot of resources into things that are ultimately not paying their dividends. Run-bys here and there, all that sort of thing that are not managing to pay for themselves. Frozen Slayer using those Janices against Emiru here. Definitely a very tricky matchup. The Rocketeers have to be microed just about perfectly in order to counter the Janus heavy rocket tanks, or what are they called? Twin medium rocket launcher, yeah. They're devastators. They are devastators on the battlefield, and if they get a chance to fire, they'll tear down your entire army before you have a chance to scream about it. There they go, firing their twin rockets. Immediately blasting apart those Rocketeers. If they're damaged even the smallest amount, you see that one volley brought that Rocketeer down to 9%. If they're damaged even the slightest amount, they will be obliterated right there, and it's the reason why the Janus are so feared on the front lines here. Nice repair command right here from Frozen Slayer as well. Love a little bit of repair micro. That's one of those things that oftentimes goes overlooked, and definitely one of the more powerful aspects of this game. King David getting a little massage here as well. Got some Grave Robbers worshipping that commander and getting its health nice and high. 75% and counting right now for the yellow commander, who has quite a force of grunts right here, but not really going to be ideal for breaking through, well, for instance, a bunch of LLTs like this. There is opportunity for run-bys, though, on the southern side. I think the Cyan Commander MB3 is probably waiting for just such an opportunity to move the forces in to engage. Putting these walls down is nice. It kind of protects your units, but it really hinders vehicles more than it hinders the bots, so I'm not sure if I really like that all too much here from the Cyan Commander. There's not really any siege happening. King David just sitting back and building up the forces. Are we going for T2 or some such? No, just continuing to expand the economy right here for the yellow player as well. Has plenty of metal in the bank. Actually, probably has enough metal. If we convert all these regular solar panels into advanced solar panels, get up to about 600 energy per second, I think there's probably enough metal just barely to squeak out a T2 lab. Obviously very risky, because if your opponent is still producing T1 and T1 vehicles, you're going to be in a tricky situation if suddenly you find yourself up against a whole bunch of T1 vehicles with nothing but a T2 lab, pardon me. Construction turret coming up in the front lines here, just to help out with a little bit of the repair micro here, and also, I guess, some reclaim if ever that becomes pertinent. Centurion's being built, set up over here. Heavy laser tower coming up as well for the orange commander. Janus is connecting their missiles in a big way. That's a massive volley of missiles right there, knocking down 4 or 5 of those Rocketeers from the Orange Army, significantly weakening the effect that the Orange Commander can have on the front. Now the Centurion are up on the front here, but already so much of that metal was obliterated. The Centurion have to find immense value in order to repay for themselves. One thing that I will give them credit for is the fact that they have tremendous range, meaning, of course, that they can manage to, at the very least, fire back against the Janus tanks there. It is definitely tricky, though. As soon as those Janus tanks land too many connections against these, it's all going to be over. Janus is wasting their missiles against the pawn right there. Actually, a nice little bit of tactical micro from Amiru, wasting those pawns. Wasting the missiles with the pawn there. T2 Lab is spotted, by the way. Big old medium tank run by. Oh, no. Massive medium tank run by over here in base of the Red Commander. Construction turrets trying desperately to dismantle as many of these tanks as possible. Oh, this is a nightmare. Constructors need immediately to turn around and start pulling these tanks apart. I think it's the only way you're going to survive this. Grunts now come back to reinforce as well, but those medium tanks are so, well, tanky. Bulky units and very difficult to bring down. T2 Constructor is produced at the very least. Even if the T2 falls, at the very least that Constructor came out. Grunt's having a really hard time blasting these down, though. T2 Lab does fall. T2 Constructor just barely up and standing. Is that a win? Well, that is the ultimate goal, after all, of the T2 Lab transition, is to go for that T2 Constructor, and I know it may seem like a loss here, maybe it's a little bit of copium, but I suppose the lab down does mean you have about 2,300-ish metal that you could spend on T2 economy. Yeah, it's kind of not a terrible situation here. As long as those T2 mexes come up and running, it should be all right. Blue economy looking fabulous, except for these E-converters tucked in between these solar panels here. Makes this a very explosive target. I could imagine a rapid air switch right here. One bombing run against the regular solar panels, closing all those up, and then a second bombing run to pop all the E-converters and take down all these advanced solars would ravage the blue economy right now, so you do have to always be very careful about that. A gauntlet on the front line and a dead red commander means that 4 has an overwhelming command over this frontline metal extractor crater. Cash miss, trying to continue fighting on the front lines here. We have Wolverines, missile trucks, and medium tanks. A couple of incisor mixed in there, too. No, single incisor mixed in there, too. Trying to find value against a whole bunch of Centurion here. Centurion famously very good against the medium tanks, actually. One of those weird matchups that just tends to work out really well. Oh, no, but they're standing still. Little bit of an APM stall right there, and the Centurion means they take a couple heavy shots from the Wolverines. And just like that, all those heavy bots, the medium bots, anti-swarm bots, are reduced to cinders. Medium tanks now trying to find an engagement here. We need some reclaim. I think the commander probably should get to work reclaiming as much of this field as possible. Always a little bit risky starting to reclaim with your commander, but it is the most efficient way to get that done because you don't have those res bots on the front. More and more units being produced every single second here for the Maroon Commander. Red Commander has the T2 back up and running. Res bots have patched it up quite nicely because, of course, that energy economy wasn't destroyed by those medium tanks. Meant that the recovery here is quite a bit quicker, and the construction turrets coming up mean that the red economy is going to be back and online very, very shortly here. T2 transition from 4. Blue Commander putting down a T2 lab on the front lines. Very risky, but we've already got the T2 lab up, and with all the metal from that reclaimed commander, I certainly think this is a decent position. Metal extractor is still available for the red commander, and I'm certain he's happy about it. Agitator has blasted away, pardon me, the gauntlet has blasted away at all the rest of it over here. These blue run-bys are a nuisance, though. I think it's time we start investing in a couple of riot tanks just to try and deal with some of these run-by attempts here. One riot tank essentially shuts down every single pawn in this composition as long as they're grouped up like that. Medium tank's doing a decent job as well here, but obviously those pawns are so quick. They're not spread out, though. Yeah, the pawns grouping up back here is a little bit of a bummer. If they had spread out and surrounded this base and then come all in from the outsides, they would have peeled apart all the E-converters, the solar panels. They would have shut down a bunch of the advanced solar panels as well. I think probably would have been able to do quite a bit more damage, but unfortunately the micro wasn't quite there for it. So ultimately those pawns, that massive army of pawns, didn't really achieve all too much. What a bummer. What a bummer for the blue commander. Maybe just trying to posture up and make it look like there's a way bigger force there than intended. A big enough force to just be wasteful with the metal. Either way, T2 metal extractors are coming up and online right now. We're going to move backwards and upgrade all the mexes here. Don't think that's a bad idea. Another T2 constructor coming up. It's about time we see some T2 units, though. Already have some Sheldon heading out on the field right here. Rysuka getting ready for that T2 battle. Starting up T2 production and making sure that we have the units to back up any sort of aggression that comes through. Heavy laser tower to defend this northern side. All those Wolverines over here. Actually, quite a forest of heavy laser towers. Blasting down those pawns with ease. The Warden. Area control laser tower. Very nicely done. Gauntlet now firing away. Vehicle out going to be pumped out here. Interesting. There are pop-up turrets here. A couple of Dragon's Claw in order to shut down any of the lighter units that come charging forward. Down go the Grunts. Gauntlet also firing away into this big grouping of thugs over here. Apparently dissuading the Red Commander from pushing forward here. Gauntlet outranging the Sheldon, so causing a little bit of grief here. Yeah, definitely making it difficult to push in. More pawn production as well. Beamer turrets coming up. Heavy investments all over the place into static defenses. We'll have to see whether that can pay off in time or not. The walls over here, a major obstruction for the Maroon Commander. Trying to find some way to get past all this wreckage, but not really having a convenient solution for it. So many wrecks on the field, but no convenient way to reclaim all of them is also a shame. Big old medium tank battle now as they battle it out on the land. Sort of the ships of the land, if you will. Very expensive, very slow moving, and very high damage. Makes them ideal units for engaging forces on the ground, but definitely once they start to clog up that battlefield, it becomes a nightmare to try and navigate here. In fact, I wouldn't even mind a bot transition here from Cashmiss at this point. Instead, going to go up to T2, and we do have some Salamander rolling out of the lab and up to the front line at this point. Getting ready to make their debut. T2 lab falls right here for the Blue Commander, as the Sheldon finally get engaged in this battle. Gauntlet has been destroyed as well. Fiends and thugs to protect everything on the front here, and I think it'll be more than sufficient to keep those Sheldon safe from the several pawn now leaking out of this laboratory. And those Sheldon are more than happy to just get engaged against a whole bunch of this static T1 defense. Oh, a little bit of a miscue right here on the radar and radar jammer bot will mean that they go down. Certainly a bummer, because losing those means your Sheldon don't actually have the vision range anymore. Yeah, kind of lost it over here. There is a cloaked jammer as well, keeping everything out of line of sight. And that means the red team's push is suddenly halted. Just by the miss micro of a single unit, this push has been slowed down immensely. Definitely a bummer. Forces on the southern side are mounting as well. King David building a big ball of Sheldon as well, going up against, looks like the forces of Edwin. MB3 and Edwin. MB3, oh, actually with quite a few of these bull tanks. Yeah, 5 bull tanks. That's about, well, almost 5,000 metal. 4,750 metal is impressive, to say the very least. But those tanks aren't finding much value right now. And they certainly need to. Edwin moving the spy bot into position. I think we're looking for that miracle engagement. Here it is. Self-D is called. Boom goes the EMP bot. Beautifully done right there by that spy bot connection. Shutting off every one of those Sheldon right there and allowing the bulls to engage. Honestly, with Miss Micro from David, I feel like, missed Micro, pardon me, from King David, it feels like maybe that spy bot wasn't even necessary. But either way, it was beautiful to see. And just like that, the entire army from the Yellow Commander has been vanquished. We do have a spy bot here to shut down these bulls as well. King David not paying attention on the front line right now and losing everything in the blink of an eye before he even has time to react. And that's exactly how quick it goes once that T2 transition goes underway. Arbiter's far too slow, their missiles, to connect with any of these rampaging forward Armada T2 vehicles. Medium tanks also falling rapidly here. Even the commander in a lot of trouble. Boom goes Trash King. Laid to dirt by the ruins of his base. As now a huge swarm of bulls pushes forward on the southern side. Little bit of aggression at just the right time, and it's all it took. A nice little timing attack, by the way, as well, from that spy bot, and managed to push back very nicely. That was the Brown Commander going down up on the northern side, or the, I guess the middle of the map here. Still in T1, by the way. Thugs and Maces over here in the middle. The Orange and Brown Commanders. Now going up to T2, but not quite into T2 yet. Oh, actually, Orange Commander here. Emiru still sticking around on those Centurions. I love the Centurion, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely time to start upgrading to T2. We've got build power and fusion reactors coming up while bulls are charging towards our base. Definitely can't help but feel like maybe this is the wrong time to make investments into infrastructure. Wouldn't mind seeing some Twin Guard or some Scorpion pop-up turrets or some Fiends or some Sheldon or some Sumos or any kind of defensive option up and running right here, but I guess it'll be the Tan and the Orange Commanders who deflect as much of this blow as possible. Yeah, there goes that very precious build power that Twitcher worked ever so hard on. And now the bulls are continuing to rampage towards the base. Still 3 bulls up and relatively healthy, one of them looking quite thin. Down it goes. 2 more though, certainly sufficient to at the very least pop all the build power here in the E-converters, even devastating the lab if they so choose. There they go, firing away at the lab now. 15, 8, 2, boom goes the lab, just like that. The bulls managed to shut it down. T2 Constructor falls as well, that's a nightmare. Build power tries to, and successfully eats up that bull, which will be the metal necessary to finish up the fusion, but it came at a very steep cost. Now the last T1 Constructor here are going to be responsible for rebuilding from the ashes a T1 laboratory in order to get some resbots up and running to try and make this all come back together. Green Commander trying to hold out against the red. We have the wreckage of the blue base up here. Wouldn't mind seeing a Constructor sent forward to try and claim these metal extractors since it's thoroughly contested right now. Sheldon moving up north here. Quite nice. Spy camera set up right now from Captain. Very useful for vision purposes. This army can retreat and still have line of sight vision. I'll show that right there. See those cameras providing quite a lot of vision available right here. And it means that these Sheldon can hit their shots quite easily. That radar bot here, the Augur, doing a great job of providing vision as well, but when in doubt, line of sight always works. This is the pain of going up against a big Sheldon bull. The time it takes for them to whittle your forces down decreases as the bull grows, and their mobility doesn't decrease by very much. And so what it means is that they can kite you more and more efficiently the more they invest into the Sheldon bull, the more Sheldon that there are in total. That's exactly why these heavy tanks feel so out of place here. Having a really hard time actually engaging against this massive Sheldon bull over here. Medium tanks trying their very best too, but the Sheldon swiftly retreating up this hill, which is actually a great maneuver. Going to slow those tanks down quite a lot, and we'll have the Scorpion turret to fire away as well. And it means that those medium tanks will have to turn tail and run. Nice control right there from the red commander. Now going to park those Sheldon up on the hillside. What an excellent, excellent move. A single tick, a hero tick in the backline right now. This E-converter being repaired by a couple of construction turrets. Always nice to stall out your opponent's build power like that, so at the very least there's that. Tick also gaining experience, so slowly farming itself up to be the conqueror of mankind here. Sheer determination in this Tick's eyes as it blasts down this E-converter, slowly gaining the skills necessary for the job. And it finally pops. E-converter chain reacts into the solar panels and some of the other stuff. The fusion reactor just barely survives, but on the very fritz of survival there. And there's still no response. There we go, a twin laser turret, not a bad idea. A single grunt could have worked as well, but a twin laser turret, not the worst thing either. And now it's time for a big push on the southern side. Yeah, with those medium tanks, or pardon me, with those heavy tanks shutting down production of the yellow commander here a little while ago, it does mean that this side was a little bit weakened. Now the Sheldon ball moving forward does mean that we have a opportunity to push forward much more efficiently here. Assault units very quick, but leave behind a big wreckage. Siege units very slow, but very, very efficient, leaving virtually no trace in the enemy's commands, at least when coupled with protective units, defenders, and all that sort of stuff, and microed properly. Resurrected Bull right here, meant to be the stalwart defender of the yellow kind, now destined for a life of destruction as the Sheldon start to fire away at it. Just like that, after firing a single shot, will be obliterated. And as long as these bulls keep moving, those rocket bots aren't going to find much value either. A Tsar heavy tank is not a bad option. It will do some damage against those bulls. There it goes, getting wonderful damage in against that big cluster of bulls right there, actually. The units that are clumped up are the specialty for the Tsar. Northern side crumbling quickly. Just Tashi, the pink commander right now, in loads of trouble. Heavy tanks moving into the base right now. We've got bulls streaming forward for 4. Commander degunning down some of the bulls here as well. Lovely stuff. Rysika taking over the commander to degun down as much of this army as possible. Very nicely done. There is still an immense problem in the backline, though. And it comes in the shape of 5 tigers and 1 bull. It sounds like the start of a bad joke, but so does this many solar panels. 52 solar panels, nearly an Aphis' worth of metal to produce a meager 1,000 energy. Ugh, I won't go into the math right now, but you can run the numbers yourself and get back to me about how efficient that is. Advanced solar panels now falling here as the Tigers continue pressing forward. Tigers, not the best tank in the game. They don't have the most HP. They don't have the most DPS. They're not the fastest. But the one thing that they have is mass productability. 665 metal means they're relatively cheap for a T2 era. It means you can make 100 of them, and it means you can spam them out pretty quickly. And it means when you send a run by, you can send a run by of about 1,000 of them into an enemy's base to completely devastate their economy. Just like this, those Tigers are pulling apart those solar panels, wasting thousands and thousands of metal right there for the Hot Pink Commander. That's a tragedy that they're going to have to try and deal with, but there's just no production. There we go. Finally, a T2 lab starts shooting out units right here. We're going to shoot out Tigers of our own after we complete a fusion reactor. Seems like a bad time for a fusion reactor, but I suppose, you know, got to get that economy up one way or another. Southern side still having issues as well. Edwin continuing to push forward for the red players, that is. The blue team looking fabulous on all sides here. And we have some gauntlets coming up. Mass gauntlet spam, okay. Now, I wouldn't mind it, okay? Let me be clear. I wouldn't mind it if we take these gauntlets and we dismantle them. If we take these beamer turrets, if we take all this static defense in the back, if we dismantle these and then use them to pay for the gauntlets on the front, I don't even mind it. I think it could be worth it here. On a T2 economy, you can afford to do it. But man, if we're gonna leave this many gauntlets out on the field right now, that's a whopping, yeah, Aphis' worth of gauntlets right there. Yeesh. Hard to say that that's justifiable. Especially against rocket bots or some such that are able to dismantle those from outside of their effective range. Sumo's in position over here, that's quite nice. Tick spam causing a lot of friendly fire right now, but at the very least the Sumos are efficient against those ticks. If the Sumos take 3 or 4 steps forward, then the tick spam is ceased. This is all very efficient. But sitting where they are, they're also out of range of a lot of these units, and that's one benefit to them. Pop-up Scorpion turret array. Being set up right here by the tank commander, getting ready for another big push. There we go, Sumo's now marching forward. Edwin trying to keep the Sheldons out of harm's way right here. Moving them around and trying to get them engaged against these hounds. The orange commander is commanding Emiru's hounds. Sheldon's so frustrated to go up against. The relentless stream of fire makes them very frustrating to go up against. Spybot. Will be detected and blasted to smithereens. Alright. And the grunt spam here will be sufficient. All across the map, the blue team is laying on the pressure and the red team is only on the back foot. Even over here where the gauntlet spam was. Yeah, gauntlet spam didn't seem to work out all too well. Needed more lightning turrets or something in order to defend against this. Looks like, yeah, we have the wreckage of a bunch of T1 taking down the gauntlets over here is tragic. I feel like rattlesnakes make a lot more sense right here. The console able to produce rattlesnakes. 2,500 metal, but you get a vastly superior long-range artillery piece. Pop-up plasma artillery piece. I feel like it makes a lot more sense to go for a couple of those. Juicy connection from the Tsar coming up. Nice shot from the Tsar right into the middle of all of those Sheldon, weakening tons of them. It was taken down before it managed to fire a second one, but very, very nicely done. At the very least, managing to land a hit. Something managing to land a hit against that Tsar over there. I think rattlesnakes are the way to go here. I think you dismantle all of these gauntlets that you've got set up over here, all 7,500 metal of gauntlets. You make 2 rattlesnakes and you continue the push that way. Rattlesnake's outranging the Sheldon too, so meaning that you can still find very high value in that static defense, using it mobily. And if you've already gone into the vehicle tech, you may as well. And these lightning turrets, okay, Sheldon should not be engaging these from this close here. Sheldon engaging the lightning turrets from within lightning turret range doesn't make any sense. So it's a little bit of a miss micro right there from the Brown Commander. But I'd be lying if I said those lightning tanks didn't just do a fabulous job of cleaning all that up. Salamanders and tigers working together here. Not a combo I think you'll ever see in nature, but certainly a potent one and beyond all reason. Salamanders offering immense weight for their metal cost. Very, very high HP pool. Bulls being streamed out one by one, not having much of an effect here. I think building them up in numbers in the backline wouldn't be the end of the world. Oh no, we're going for T3 and Aphis and Bulls. The most expensive unit in the lab. Well, most expensive tank in the lab. Technically the Starlight costs more. But anyways, you get the idea. The most expensive tank in the lab, the most expensive lab in the game, and the most expensive economic structure. Luckily the Aphis is finished up, so at the very least, never mind, we've got another one building back here. Not a lot of build power poured into that at the very least, so it's not going to be draining too much economy, but I think we need to pick one strategy here and go for it rather than a mix of all three. Gauntlet's still coming up over here, my goodness. Yeah, the longer I look at it, the more I hate it. Heavy tanks finding an opportunity right here from Electric, the Seafoam Green Commander. Taking a moment in the sun to push forward right now. That's not the sun, though, it's laser tanks blasting away with heat rays. In space, there is no one to hear Kashmir scream as these Tiger tanks move forward into the Maroon base right now. And there's not much hope of this lab surviving. Well, okay. We could miss micro the tanks, but it looks like we'll choose not to right here, as Electric maneuvers those tanks well into range of that laboratory and blasts it to smithereens. One of the hardest things to worry about microing when you lose your lab is making sure your construction towers don't eat up your lab on accident. Happens all the time, and it's very difficult to stop them from doing. Honestly wish there was a way to contribute, or to make to basically set those turrets to not auto-reclaim things. Just so that I don't lose my laboratory when I accidentally let a leak through like this and it tears down my entire base and I need to rebuild. But this won't be a problem for the Maroon Commander as all of it goes up and those fusion reactors pop. Beautifully done, and I would say probably enough value to justify this run by at this point, as the Maroon player has also had to pull back their entire army from the fronts here. That entire push petered out because of a little bit of nicely timed aggression right there from Electric, saving the blue team from the onslaught of Maroon forces right there and buying time for Razorbacks and other T3 units to get pushed out. Definitely a killer play right there. Whether Electric realized the scale of that play, that little run by right there or not, that was probably a game-winning maneuver. My goodness, what have we got here? At the very least, we will be switching over to... Oh, missile launched up in the air. Thought it was a nuke. We will be switching over. That's a commander going down over here, by the way. It's going to be the Powder Blue Commander Edwin going down over here. We will be switching to rattlesnakes, is what I've been trying to say for the last 4 or 5 minutes. Rattlesnakes coming up right now. I guess we've got a we've got a T2 constructor building a line of rattlesnakes to the brown base. I mean, name a more poignant strategy than the line. Oh, I can't see it in this mode. Dang it. I wanted to get a screenshot of that, but it removes it from the screen. I'll have to get a screen cap like this. Okay, if we deconstruct the agitator or the gauntlets, I think it's worth it. But this is so... this is dumb. This is so dumb. I kind of love it. You know, as a large proponent of unconventional strategies, this definitely goes on the list somewhere. I don't know what to make of it entirely. I don't know if it'll work, but I have high hopes. I have high hopes that this many rattlesnake turrets will be enough to blast away at this, but I'm a little bit worried at the fact that there's so many agitators. And agitators do outrange rattlesnakes. Yeah, it's kind of a problem that the Brown Commander Shava Kana is going to have to deal with here. Is it as big a problem as the Razorback tearing everything apart? I don't think so. Yeah, just like that. Arbiter's no longer an issue. Very nice. Now Razorback prioritizing the mechs here over the LLTs. A little bit of a bummer. I think if that Razorback could prioritize those LLTs and maybe the Dragon's Maw, probably would have been able to blast down this entire base. There really wasn't anything to stop it. Yeah, but those red spots get on top of it immediately. Nicely done by Shavakana, the Brown Commander here, resurrecting that Razorback and using it on the front lines rather than just letting it go to waste on idle on the front. I will say, to the Green Commander's credit, at least we're reclaiming most of these wreckages, so we're paying for this bizarre strategy with, effectively, the enemy's corpses. One misplaced anti-air turret, though. One anti-air shot at this entire bundle and this all goes away, though, is the thing that concerns me. The other thing is that we had consoles for the longest time, so I'm not sure why we went for a T2 air transition instead of just going for mass console to do this strategy, but regardless. Oh. The zigzag strategy. Okay, so now we're gonna build rattlesnakes in a big zigzag line. I can't wait to see the total cost of all this static defense. It's gonna be ridiculous. But hey, I mean, if you got an economy like Frozen Slayer has in the back line over here, I mean, you do you, Queen. You do you. Mammoth push on the southern side here as the Yellow Commander looks for every opportunity to try and jump forward. Jump forward, maybe the wrong adjective there. Try and crawl forward very slowly. Mammoth's extremely, extremely slow. Means you... I'm so excited to see how this pays out. Sorry, I know I want to talk about the mammoths, but I'm so excited to see how on earth this pays out. I don't think I've ever seen mass rattlesnake as a strategy before, but I'm so curious to see if this will work. I like the straight line better, though. I think the zigzag makes sense if you're being engaged by enemy forces, but I think the straight line makes sense. Oh my goodness! Until you're, you know, while you're making your way towards the enemy base. Here come more constructors. This is like a Nostradamus, but in just a slightly different angle. It's like a Nostradamus, but to the left a little bit. This is a Nostradamus, but with constructors rather than going for I don't know, going for something like the beamer turret drops. The turret comes up, and the rattlesnakes activate. Boom goes the volley of rattlesnake fire. Oh my god. Oh my goodness gracious, those rattlesnakes firing away at the arbiters over there. That's just brutal as they collide with those T2 rocket bots. What on earth are we looking at here? I love it. I cannot lie, I genuinely love the creativity coming out from Frozen Slayer. Our 18 open skill, 1 chevron Canadian hero, showing us a strategy that I've genuinely never seen before in my life, and can solidly say I don't know if we're ever gonna see again. There's so many counters to this. T3 is one obvious counter, but also a spy bot and maybe some arbiters. There's a lot of ways that you can shut this down so efficiently. And I think it might be to the fact that we're going up against the zero open skill. It kind of blew my mind there. 0 open skill, but bronze chevron hero right now. The only reason why this is having any amount of effectiveness. Everyone else fighting fairly standard battles. They did make a change, by the way. I want to talk about this for a second. They did make a change now, so when you launch the Thor missile, you can now right-click and drag to spread out the Thor missiles. Very useful, because it used to be that you couldn't really do that, so if you wanted to fire your Thor missiles, you had to click a Thor and then put a missile down, click a Thor, put a missile down, over and over and over again, and that was just not efficient, not very fun to play with, so made using those Thor missiles quite a bit more convenient. I think it's the kind of thing that Bar prides itself on having, is that ease of use. But sure, 100 rattlesnakes and about 20 more will blast down just about anything with fair efficiency. Yeah. I mean, kind of. The Great Wall of Rattlesnakes. I don't even know what to make of this. Is this an efficient fight? I mean, how many kills have these got in total? 57 kills for 55,000 metal worth of rattlesnakes? It doesn't look very efficient, but while the tanks are retreating, I guess they get immense value. Yeah, weird. So weird. So very, very strange, but the more these rattlesnakes are built, the less anybody can push into this. Maroon Commander calls for air to bomb. There is no air. The Maroon Commander fails to realize, and is the reason why this is so impenetrable. Yeah, a correct assessment of the fact that this would be completely devastated by one bombing run. 2 nuclear bombers could make very short work of this entire thing. A couple of fighters making very short work of all these constructors. We need these T1s to go build some lightning turrets will work. I was gonna say some beamer turrets, but lightning turrets work just as well. Gonna keep the ticks at bay. A big spam of T1 units into the rattlesnakes here I feel like would work pretty fabulously as well. So strange. Big old tachyon ball coming up in the southern side. I mean, it's at least we're spending the metal. That's another thing that I'll say to the oh no, we aren't actually. Well, okay. More build power, more build turrets, continue expanding the economy, continue making it exponentially better. Something to be aware of. Thor's on the southern side pulling apart these mammoths as quickly as they can. That is to say, fairly slowly. Mammoths well known for their absurd HP pool. Spybot even detected over here. Not the primary focus of those heavy lightning tanks, but once you spy it, at the very least you're aware that they're out there. Tremor gets obliterated right there, and that is a bummer. Those tremors are a hefty investment. Thor's making a push for the base here. Yeah, trying to win it all here. EMP missiles would be wonderful. Sending those EMP missiles to shut down the lab and the build power and all the rest of it. No such advancement going to be made here by the Cyan Commander, though. Just going for brute force. One of the Terminator tanks does go down. The Scorpion turret's finding some value here as well. Persecutor bundle also firing away at whatever they can. At least the T3 lab goes down, though. Persecutor falls, and the Terminator tank has made it into the backline. There we go. E-converters pop. Aphis will be the next primary target. Boom goes the base of the Yellow Commander right there. Beautifully done. 3 Terminator tanks, apparently exactly how much it takes to break down that base. Lovely play right there from the Cyan Commander building. Just the right amount of force in order to get that done. Sharpshooters and spybots now dismantling this base over here. We have the we have the rattlesnakes firing away over here as well. I think because we've gone into air constructors in order to build these, I wouldn't mind seeing maybe some scout planes hovering above just to provide vision over here. Oh my goodness, the amount of rattlesnakes you can fire off with this many of them built up over here, though, is insane. That many constructors, too, I wouldn't mind seeing them hover over this battlefield and reclaim a whole lot of it. That's got to be easily a couple, almost 40,000 metal right there. At this point, it's basically just a measure of the economy of the Green Commander, the fact that they can go for this many rattlesnakes, be this inefficient with the static defenses, and still have plenty to spare to continue scaling the economy, continue scaling pulsars in the backline here. This is just ridiculous. There we go. More Aphises start up in the back over here. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Exactly what a late-game economy should look like. The red team, withered from having to constantly be putting out units to fight on the front lines, means that they haven't had anyone in their corner, just scaling economy blindly, recklessly, like Frozen's Lair has. What a bizarre play. 1,000 rattlesnakes and a couple more. Don't get me wrong, beautiful snakes. Love the rattlesnakes. But very strange to see them in Beyond All Reason being utilized like this. In more standard news, demons are ravaging the base over here of the Maroon Commander, shutting down the E-storages, the fusion reactors, the T2 labs, the twin guard towers, of course, and all the rest of it. Banishers, another B word unit, B-type unit, following up the demons over here. Very nicely done. That scuttleball over there pops right there. I think those were probably meant to be used for offense, but instead not used at all. Banisher's sort of the, high single target damage that you need when dealing with T3, early T3. They're sort of your cop-out solution for when you need to deal with early T3 units and you don't really have T3 ready yourself. They're an excellent option for that sort of a thing. The rattlesnakes have jumped forward, though, now firing at the base of the Brown Commander. Oh, no. Commander falls over here to the demons pushing forward over on this side. Are these demons moving at slower speed? Have they been artificially slowed down, or is this just the speed the demons walk at? Weird. Feels like they're walking very slowly. They're going through molasses or something. Build power crumbling to smithereens here. Lightning turrets having a wonderful time. Sharpshooters, though, having a better one. Does it matter? Oh my goodness. I can't peel my eyes away from this. It's an excellent push right here from the blue team, crumbling the middle of the defensive line right here for the red team. Pushing them out of the middle of the map and then surrounding them on all sides to continue the aggression. But it's the rattlesnakes that have me captivated, I have to admit. At this point, a whopping 112,500 metal, 160 kills, split between 45 rattlesnakes, is the most absurd static defense investment I think I've ever seen. Yeah, I think bar none, the most absurd static defense setup I've ever seen, at least in a normal game. And not even used as static defense, really, used as static offense. Ridiculous. Sharpshooters having a great time against a lot of these heavy tanks. Banishers, all the rest of it. Every time they shoot, essentially a guaranteed kill. But there go the E-converters, and it was holding the economy of the Orcs Commander up, and the demons now out and running. Ready to start blasting this economy down. Pulsar still finding value, though, I will say. Managing to blast away at some of these heavier units. Demon taking serious damage right there. Brought down from about 90% to 40% is pretty impressive. But none can stand to the purifying flames of the almighty demon as now it ravages the build power right here of the Orcs Commander, and I think we all know exactly what direction this game is going. Suddenly the static defenses are the only things holding the line at this point on the southern side. More Terminator tanks coming up. Trying to blast down whatever they can over here. EMP missile. EMP missile. No such EMP missile. Not today. Not ever, it feels like. Demons on the northern side. Getting ready to push through. Nice defense over here, though. We do have Razorbacks and demons of the Hot Pink Commander zone. Hard to tell how these demon fights are going when everything is just awash in flames, but it does seem like those demons in purple came out well and away on top. At this point, it's only a matter of how does the blue team manage to resign this, or pardon me, how does the red team manage to resign this? The green commander going for a crazy investment into long-range plasma cannons. Love to see that. I mean, still using that mobile build power is just a way of continuing to harass these commanders. But I think the red team smells that victory is long lost. The blue team managing to clutch up this game with some very unique strategies and some wonderful pushes, all said and done. At the end of the day, eco-scaling wins out in the end, as it always does in Beyond All Reason, and is one of the reasons why it's so important to get good at. Thanks a ton, everybody, for watching. I sure hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff if you enjoyed the video. You can also dislike it, too. We learned that that actually has no effect. It still benefits me, so I don't care which one you choose, but hit one of those buttons, and it helps Beyond All Reason get out there in the interwebs and makes it a much bigger game. I'm certainly appreciative of it, and I'm sure everybody else in the community is as well. And I will see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. And my goodness, look at that graph.